Ladies and gentlemen, life is full of choices. Some are easy, like what to eat for lunch. Others are harder, like whether to step out of your comfort zone, chase a dream, or stand up for something you believe in. But all choices come with a cost. And today, I want to talk about a truth many of us try to ignore. Let me tell you something that most people don't want to hear. Regret is worse than failure. People spend their whole lives trying to avoid pain, trying to avoid embarrassment, trying to avoid risk, but they end up building lives full of quiet misery. They walk around pretending they're happy, pretending they've got it figured out, pretending they're content with average. But deep down, they know they could have done more. They could have gone further. They had chances and they didn't take them. That's what eats them alive later. Not the failures, not the rejections, the regrets. You see, failure is loud. It happens in the moment. You feel it, it burns. Maybe it even knocks you down for a while. But you learn, you get stronger, you evolve. That's what pain is supposed to do. It shapes you. But regret is quiet. It creeps in slowly over the years when you're older, when you're lying awake at night, wondering how your life ended up where it did. Regret is that nagging thought that you played it too safe, that you took the easy road, that you chose fear over freedom. Here's the truth most people run from. The pain of regret is permanent. It doesn't go away. You carry it with you. You see people living the life you wanted, doing what you were too afraid to try, and you start asking yourself the most dangerous question a man can ask. What if I had gone for it? What if I had just believed in myself one more time? What if I didn't care what people thought? That question doesn't lead to clarity. It leads to torment. I know some of you are sitting here and you've already felt a taste of that. You missed that opportunity. You didn't speak up. You stayed at the job you hated. You stayed in the relationship you outgrew. You talked yourself out of it. You let fear dress up as logic. And now you're trying to convince yourself that it was the smart choice. But let's be real, deep down you know it was the safe choice. And there's a huge difference. The safe choice doesn't lead to greatness. It leads to mediocrity. And that's the trap most people fall into. They think they're being smart by playing it safe, but what they're actually doing is slowly killing their potential. Because every time you ignore that voice in your gut, every time you silence that fire in your chest, telling you to go for it, you lose a piece of yourself. You train yourself to become weaker, more passive, more afraid of life, until one day life passes you by and you realize it's too late. But the man who takes the risk, even if he fails, he walks away with something most people never have. Peace. Peace knowing he went for it. Peace knowing he had the balls to try. Peace knowing he didn't let fear run his life. That kind of peace is priceless. You can't buy it. You earn it by doing what others are too scared to do. People always ask me, what if I fail? And I say, so what? Who cares? You fail, you learn, you move. That's how life works. You think every successful person got it right the first time. Of course not. They failed, sometimes spectacularly. But the difference is, they kept showing up. They kept swinging. They kept betting on themselves. And that's why they're where they are. Not because they never failed, but because they never backed down. Now let me flip the question on you. What if you don't try? What if you let the fear win? What happens then? I'll tell you. You stay stuck. You wake up 10 years from now in the same place, same routine, same paycheck, same excuses, wondering why nothing changed. You'll scroll through your feed watching others live the life you wanted, and that pit in your stomach will grow. That's regret. That's what happens when you let the fear of failure be louder than the desire to succeed. Listen, life is going to hurt either way. You're going to suffer no matter what path you take. The question is, do you want the pain of discipline, the pain of rejection, the pain of risk, or do you want the pain of regret, of missed chances, of wasted potential? One of them builds you, the other destroys you. You decide. You can't run from pain, so pick the one that leads somewhere. Pick the one that makes you better. Take the shot, make the call, book the ticket, launch the idea, whatever that thing is that's been sitting in the back of your mind, haunting you, go do it. Because every moment you hesitate is another moment lost. And time doesn't forgive. You don't get it back. I've seen too many people realize this too late, and by the time they're ready to change, life has already handed them the bill. Their dreams are gone, their bodies tired, their spirits dull, and all they have left is a list of things they wish they'd done. That's the real tragedy. Not failure, but never knowing what you were capable of. So let me be real with you right now. If you've got a dream, a goal, an ambition, you owe it to yourself to take the damn risk. Not next year, not when it's perfect, not when you feel ready, right now. Because the truth is, you're never going to feel 100. Life doesn't work like that. You get ready by moving. You gain clarity by acting. You build confidence through exposure to fear, not avoidance of. You're here for a reason. You've got something inside you most people don't. Fire, hunger, drive. Don't waste it. Don't smother it. The world doesn't need more people who play it safe. The world needs more people willing to go all in on them. You either take the risk now or live with the pain forever. Let me tell you a brutal truth most people will never admit. If you're comfortable, you're not growing. That's it. Comfort is the enemy. It's seductive. It's soft. It wraps around you like a blanket and whispers, stay here. But what it really means is, stay small, stay average, stay broke, stay weak. You think you're winning because you're not losing. But in reality, you're dying a slow death. Mentally, physically, emotionally. Everything you want in life, every single thing is sitting on the other side of discomfort. You want to make more money. That's outside your comfort zone. You want to get in shape, build a better body. That's outside your comfort zone. You want to be respected, admired. That doesn't come from repeating safe habits. It comes from sacrifice. It comes from pain, from pushing when you don't feel like it, from choosing the hard route every single day. Everyone talks about wanting success, everyone, but almost no one wants to pay the price. Because success demands discomfort. It demands that you stop doing what's easy and start doing what's necessary. And that's where most people fail, not because they don't have the talent or the brains, but because they can't handle being uncomfortable. They quit the moment it gets tough. They walk away the moment they feel resistance. That's why they stay stuck. The man who wins in life is the man who's willing to suffer, willing to step into the fire again and again, not because he enjoys pain, but because he understands it's the gateway. You want freedom, then get ready for pressure. Get ready to feel like you're drowning sometimes, because growth never feels good in the moment. It feels like stress, risk, failure, embarrassment. It feels like putting yourself in rooms where you don't belong yet. It feels like starting at zero again and again, until something clicks. But if you stay in your comfort zone, you know what you get: stagnation, the same paycheck, the same conversations, the same routine, nothing new, nothing exciting, nothing legendary, just survival. And survival is not what you were born for. You weren't made to just coast through life, collecting tiny rewards and calling it success. You were made to dominate, to stretch, to climb. And that only happens when you put yourself in situations where you might fail, where you might get hurt, where you might look stupid. That's where greatness starts, not in safety, but in struggle. And the crazy thing, the more you expose yourself to discomfort, the more powerful you become. It's like a muscle. You build tolerance. You grow mentally, emotionally, physically. Suddenly the things that used to scare you don't anymore. The things that used to feel impossible are just part of your routine. That's how progress works. You level up by leaning into discomfort, not avoiding it. Think about anyone you admire. They weren't forged in comfort. They were forged in pressure, in challenge, in risk. Athletes don't train in luxury. Soldiers aren't built in silence. Entrepreneurs don't get rich by playing it safe. Every strong man, every powerful figure, every top performer, they became that way because they kept choosing the harder path when everyone else chose easy. And that's exactly why they're at the top. You've got to get hungry. You've got to stop needing everything to feel good, to feel easy, to feel smooth. That's the mindset of someone who will never break through. Growth isn't supposed to feel good. It's supposed to break you, rebuild you, and then break you again. And every time you come back sharper, harder, and more dangerous. So ask yourself right now, where have you gotten too comfortable? What part of your life have you let go soft? Is it your body, your business, your discipline, your mindset? Be honest. Because if there's a place where you're no longer feeling pressure, then that's the place where you're starting to decay. That's the part of you that's getting weaker. And if you're not getting stronger, then you're getting left behind. Simple. You don't want to look back at your life one day and realize you played it safe the whole time, that you lived in a bubble where nothing ever really challenged you, nothing ever pushed you. You'll look around and realize that all the people who took the risk, who faced the fire, who chose growth over comfort, they passed you. They built empires while you were making excuses. They became giants while you were hiding. And here's the worst part. Deep down, you'll know you could have been one of them, that you had the potential, that you had the fire, but you didn't act on it. That's the kind of regret that keeps men awake at night. Not the things they tried and failed at, but the times they sat still, waiting for the perfect moment that never came. There is no perfect moment. There is only now. You don't wait to feel ready. You get uncomfortable, and then you become ready. That's how winners operate. They act first. They lean in. They face the chaos. They don't retreat into comfort. They expand into challenge.
That's how dominance is built, one uncomfortable step at a time. So I'm telling you right now, if you want more, you've got to become more. And becoming more doesn't happen in the shallow end of the pool. It happens when you jump into the deep water, with your fists clenched, and your jaw tight, and you tell yourself, I'm not leaving here until I win. Get uncomfortable, get aggressive, get used to pain. Because pain is the price of becoming powerful. And power is what gives you control. Control of your body, control of your money, control of your destiny. But none of that comes to the man who stays soft and safe. You want to grow, get uncomfortable, and stay.
Let me break something down for you that people don't seem to understand. Every single success story you've ever seen, read about, admired, or envied started with risk, not luck, not comfort, not some magical handout. Risk. Someone somewhere made a decision to throw themselves into the unknown, to gamble their time, their energy, their money, maybe even their reputation, and they said, I'll take this chance, even if I lose. That's how it works. Success isn't handed out to the cautious. It doesn't land in your lap because you're nice or you waited patiently. It shows up when you prove you're willing to bleed for it. When you've got skin in the game, when you're ready to get uncomfortable, look like a fool, and still keep moving. That's the cost. That's the entry ticket. And the people who make it, they understand that. They weren't sitting around waiting for signs or guarantees. They made a move. They saw an opening, or maybe just a hunch, and they took it. They bet on themselves. When everyone else was hesitating, overthinking, or playing it safe, they act. You want to know why most people lose? Because they're so obsessed with avoiding failure that they avoid success right along with it. They want to win without risking anything. But that's not how the game works. You don't get to win without putting something on the line. You don't become something without giving something up. That's why most people never see what they're capable of, because they never push far enough to find out. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Safety is an illusion. The 9-to-5 job you think is secure, that can disappear in a phone call. The savings you're hoarding, inflation is eating it. The time you think you have, it's ticking by while you hesitate. The truth is, risk is everywhere. You're already risking your life by not taking action. Because every day you sit still, life moves forward without you. And there is no rewind button, no second chance at youth, no redo for lost time. Think about the people who've made it to the top. You think they played it safe. You think they waited until it was guaranteed. They made bold moves. Elon Musk put every last dollar into SpaceX and Tesla. He was broke. You think he didn't feel fear? Of course he did. But he did it anyway, because he understood something most people never will. If you don't risk big, you don't win big. Simple. You can't climb to the top of the mountain by tiptoeing around the base. You have to commit. You have to be willing to face the storm. Slip, fall, break a few bones, then get up and keep climbing. That's what separates the elite from the average. Not talent, not background, just one thing: the will to take risk. And I'm not just talking about money, I'm talking about everything. You want to be respected? That's a risk. You'll have to say things people don't want to hear. You'll have to take a stand. You'll lose friends. You'll be misunderstood. But you do it anyway, because integrity costs something, and most people aren't willing to pay. That's why their voices don't matter. You want to build a business? That's a risk. You'll face failure. You'll work more hours than anyone around you. You'll doubt yourself. You'll wonder if it's worth it. But the payoff? Freedom, legacy, impact. That doesn't come from playing it small. It comes from risking everything to build something that matters. You want to love deeply? That's a risk. You'll get hurt. You'll expose yourself. You'll be vulnerable. But that's the price of connection, the price of real intimacy. You don't get depth without risk. You just get surface-level games, and that's not living. That's existing. Everything real, everything powerful, everything worth it demands that you take a leap, that you put yourself on the line, that you stop hiding behind logic and start moving with conviction. I get it. Risk is scary, but so what? Fear is part of the equation. It doesn't go away. You just learn to carry it, to act in spite of it, to take it with you as you move forward. That's what courage is. Not the absence of fear, but the decision that fear won't control you. And the beautiful thing, once you start living like that, once you build that identity of a person who takes bold action, you become unstoppable. Not because you never fail, but because failure can't break you anymore. You become immune to it. You've already tasted loss, embarrassment, rejection, and you survived. You kept going. That's power. You think a man who's already risked everything is scared of your opinion. You think someone who's built himself from the ground up is going to fold because things get tough. No, he's built different. Because risk builds character. It builds strength. It builds presence. And people feel it when you walk into the room.
They feel that you're not ordinary because you've lived, you've fought, you've earned it. The ones who win in life aren't the smartest or the fastest or the most gifted. They're the ones who step up when others freeze. They're the ones who step up when others freeze. They're the ones who make the move when everyone else is still thinking about it. That's what it comes down to. Action, risk, repetition, not talent, not theory, just execution. So if you're sitting there waiting for the right time, let me save you the suspense. It doesn't exist. The stars aren't going to align. No one is going to come tap you on the shoulder and say, hey, now it's safe to chase your dreams. That's your job. That's your responsibility. To make the move, to take the leap, to bet on yourself when no one else will. Because the truth is, you already know what you need to do. You've known for a long time, but you've been hesitating, holding back, playing it safe. And where's that gotten you? Are you fulfilled? Are you living the life you imagined? Or are you haunted by the gap between who you are and who you could be? That gap is closed by risk, by stepping into the unknown, by making the hard choice now so you don't suffer the bitter regret later. Take the risk, or stay exactly where you are forever. Let me tell you what separates the average from the exceptional. Responsibility. The second you start blaming anything outside of yourself, you've already lost. That's the reality. You can't dominate life while playing the victim. You can't rise while pointing fingers. The moment you say it's not my fault, you hand over your power. You give up control. And that's why most people are stuck where they are. Not because life is unfair, but because they refuse to take ownership. You didn't get the results you wanted. That's on you. You're not where you want to be financially, physically, mentally. That's on you. It doesn't matter what excuses you have. Your past, your parents, your circumstances. None of that gives you permission to stay weak. You were dealt a bad hand, play it better. You had a tough upbringing, use it as fuel. Because no one's coming to save you. No one owes you anything. And no one cares how hard it's been. Unless you turn that pain into something real. The man who wins in life is the one who owns everything. Even the things outside of his control. He doesn't complain. He adapts. He finds solution. And when he fails, he doesn't blame the system. He studies the failure and comes back stronger. That's the mindset you need if you want to become someone who dominates in this world. Not someone who waits for perfect conditions, but someone who creates his. And don't confuse this with toxic positivity or delusion. This isn't about pretending everything is fine when it's not. It's about understanding that the world doesn't bend for you. The world doesn't care about your feelings. It rewards action, resilience, and strength. So instead of crying about how things should be, focus on how you're going to win despite how they are. That's real power. That's self-mastery. Most people don't want this kind of responsibility because it's heavy. Because once you admit everything in your life is a reflection of your choices, you have to confront some hard truths. You have to admit that you've wasted time, that you've let fear make your decisions, that you've played small when you should have gone all in. But that's the beginning of change. That's where transformation starts. When you finally stop lying to yourself and start demanding more. You see these people walking around blaming the government, their job, their partner, the economy. You know what they really are: weak, powerless, cowards, hiding behind excuses. Because it's easier than doing the work. It's easier to point the finger than to look in the mirror. But nothing great has ever been built from blame. Greatness is built from discipline, responsibility, and relentless action. You have to build the kind of mindset where you expect pressure, where you expect life to test you. And when it does, you don't fold. You rise, you adjust, you sharpen your sword. Because every time life throws something at you, you've got two choices: crumble or conquer. And the people who rise, they're the ones who see every problem as a challenge, as a game, as a test of who they are. And they love it. They want the responsibility because it forces them to evolve. Your health is your responsibility. Your money is your responsibility. Your mindset, your habits, your relationships, all of it. You either take full control or you live on your knees, waiting for something to magically improve. And I'll tell you something. There is no magic. There is only ownership. You want to change something. Own it. No more. No more. It's hard. Of course it's hard. That's the point. You grow through the pressure. You grow through the weight. The heavier the load, the stronger you become, if you carry it long enough. Let me be real with you. If your life isn't where you want it to be, it's not because you're unlucky. It's because somewhere along the way, you stopped being ruthless with yourself. You accepted average. You let distractions pull you off your path. You said yes to things that deserved enough. You negotiated with comfort. You compromised your standards. And now you're living the result of that. But the beautiful thing, that can change the moment you decide to reclaim your power. And that starts with radical responsibility. From now on, you make a rule for yourself. No blame, no excuses. No escape, just ownership. You don't say I didn't have time. You say I didn't prioritize. You don't say they made me feel like this. You say I allowed it. You don't say it's out of my hand. You say then I'll find another way. That's how a high-performance man thinks. That's how a leader thinks. That's how winners think. You're in control of how much you train, how much you study, how much you sleep, what you eat, who you associate with, what you want, how you speak to yourself. Every small detail either strengthens you or weakens you. There is no neutral. And when you start taking ownership of those things, truly owning them, you become a force. Because now, no matter what happens, you trust yourself to respond, to adapt, to handle. And guess what happens when you live like that? You start moving different. You walk into rooms with a different posture. People can feel it. Because true responsibility shows in your energy, in your actions, in your results. You don't even have to say a word. People see it in the way you operate. This man is built for pressure. He doesn't flinch. He doesn't fold. He handles business. Most people are looking for someone to fix their problems. Be the person who isn't waiting. Be the person who becomes the solution. When you do that, you become dangerous. You become someone who doesn't just survive life. You bend it to your will. And that's the whole point. You're either the kind of man who blames the world, or the kind who takes command of it. Choose wisely.
Everybody wants to win. Everybody wants the results, the life, the success, the money, the power, the freedom. But the second it comes time to actually do what's required, they fold. Why? Because they think the grind is optional. They think the world is supposed to hand them what they want just because they feel like they deserve it. But life doesn't care what you want. Life responds to what you do. You don't get results based on intention. You get results based on execution. There's this fantasy that hard work is for the broke, for the desperate, for the early stages. Like once you hit a certain level, you can coast, you can relax, you can chill. That's nonsense. You don't grind until you make it. You grind because you want to stay sharp, stay lethal, stay ahead of the curve. Comfort is where killers lose their edge. That's where ambition dies. The moment you get soft, someone hungrier than you is gaining ground. Someone else is putting in the reps you're skipping, and you'll feel it when it's too late. When they're standing on the podium and you're clapping from the crowd, telling yourself you could have been something. You see, most people want to win, but they're not willing to bleed for it. They want to be millionaires, but won't stay up late. They want to be respected, but can't take criticism. They want to be in shape, but keep quitting after a week. That's not hunger. That's fantasy. Real hunger looks like discipline. It looks like doing the same boring, painful, repetitive work every single day without applause, without motivation, without shortcuts. That's what separates the obsessed from the casual. And that's why the obsessed always win. You don't build a powerful life off emotion. You build it off routine, off systems, off showing up on the days you least feel like it. The gym sessions when you're tired. The business calls when you're discouraged. The studying when your mind's foggy. That's the grind. That's what transforms you. Not the hype. Not the inspiration. You can scroll Instagram all day and get fired up. But when the screen turns off, are you actually doing anything? That's the difference. That's the only thing that matters. And let me tell you something else. Nobody's coming to push you. No one's coming to save you. You want discipline. You build it. You earn it. You craft it through repetition and resistance. You show up every day and prove to yourself that you're in control, not your emotions, not your circumstances, not your excuses. People ask, how do I stay motivated? That's the wrong question. Motivation is for amateurs. Motivation fades. Discipline is what keeps you going when motivation dies, and it will die. You'll wake up some days and not feel like doing anything. But if you've got discipline, it doesn't matter. You do it anyway. And that's what makes you dangerous. Because most people quit the second it gets hard. You won't. If you want to level up, you've got to fall in love with the process. You've got to enjoy the struggle. You've got to rewire your brain to find meaning in the suffering. Because that's where greatness lives. It lives in the grind, in the sweat, in the tears, in the lonely hours when no one's watching, and you're tempted to slack off but don't. That's where champions are made. Not in the spotlight, but in the shadows when you choose to stay relentless. You think it's supposed to be fun all the time, it's not. You think it's supposed to feel good, it won't. But that's what makes it worth it. Because when you finally do win, when the results start showing, when your bank account changes, your body transforms, your confidence skyrockets, you'll know exactly why. You'll look back and remember every sacrifice, every time you pushed through, every time you refused to quit. That feeling, that's earned, that's real, and no one can take that from you. And guess what? The grind doesn't stop when you succeed. That's just where the real pressure begins. Because now you've got something to lose. Now you've got people watching. Now the target's on your back. And if you start slipping, if you get soft, lazy, comfortable, you'll lose it all. So you don't just train to win, you train to stay winning. You stay sharp because the wolves are always circling.
This is why structure matters. Systems matter. You should know exactly what time you wake up, what time you train, what you eat, what your goals are, what your non-negotiables are. Your calendar should reflect your priorities. Your daily actions should reflect your ambition. If they don't, you're living in delusion. You're talking big but living small. And the world doesn't reward talk. It rewards performance. The grind teaches you things nothing else can. It teaches you pain tolerance. It teaches you patience. It teaches you how to focus when your mind wants to. It teaches you how to be unshakable when the pressure hits. These are skills most people will never develop because they're too busy looking for easy. Let them. You stay locked in, you stay focused, because that's how you break through. And the best part, once you become someone who thrives in the grind, life gets easier. Not because the work gets lighter, but because you get stronger. You develop this inner fire, this clarity. You start moving with purpose. You stop wasting time on drama, distractions, cheap dopamine. Your habits get cleaner. Your thinking gets sharper. Your confidence becomes unbreakable. And suddenly the things that used to scare you don't even move you anymore. That's the reward of the grind. So next time you're tired, tempted to skip, tempted to coast, remember this. The grind is your edge. The grind is your advantage. The grind is the path to everything you say you want. Don't run from it. Embrace it. Own it. Dominate it. Keep grinding. Keep winning. No other way. Let me break something down for you that most people avoid their entire lives. Fear. Not the kind of fear that keeps you safe from danger. The kind of fear that holds you back from becoming the person you know deep down you could be. That subtle, invisible fear that creeps in when it's time to take the shot, to speak up, to launch the business, to leave the safe job, to commit to the hard path. That's the fear that kills dreams in silence. Most people think playing it safe is smart. They've been sold the idea that comfort equals security, that predictability means success. So they tiptoe through life, avoiding risk, avoiding discomfort, telling themselves they're being responsible. But deep down, they know the truth. Deep down, every time they play it safe, a part of them dies. Every time they avoid the leap, the action, the moment, they feel it. That sting of regret, that quiet voice in the back of their mind that says, you should have gone for it. You know what's worse than failure? Regret eats men alive. It rots you from the inside. Because failure at least teaches you something. It makes you stronger, smarter, more prepared. But regret is the bitter weight of knowing you chose to stay small, that you chose to ignore your potential, that you chose comfort over greatness. That's the real pain. That's the thing you carry forever. You've got to understand that fear isn't your enemy. Your inaction is. Everyone feels fear. I don't care how successful someone is, how tough they look, how much money they've got. Fear doesn't discriminate. But the difference is, winners don't let fear dictate their actions. They feel it, they acknowledge it, and then they move through it. That's courage. Not the absence of fear, but doing what needs to be done despite it. And I get it. Fear of judgment, fear of failure, fear of starting something new, fear of being exposed. That's what holds most people back. But let me ask you this. So what if they judge you? So what if people laugh? None of that has the power to stop you unless you let it. The world is full of critics who've never built anything, of spectators who've never stepped into the arena. They talk, but they don't matter. Because while they're laughing, you're evolving, you're risking, you're growing. Most of you are waiting for the fear to go away before you make your move, but it never will. Fear doesn't leave, you just get stronger. You just stop listening to it. You train your mind to act anyway. You train your body to push through. You build up the kind of momentum that drowns fear out completely. Action kills fear, not positive thinking, not wishful daydreaming, real, raw, relentless action. That's the antidote. And let me tell you something most won't admit. The best things in life, the growth, the money, the fulfillment, the power, the success, all of it is hidden behind your fears. Everything you want is on the other side of that mental block you keep avoiding. You want to change your life, then stop waiting for it to feel easy. It won't. Stop waiting for permission. No one's going to give it to you. Stop waiting for the perfect time. That doesn't exist. The time is now. The risk is required. There's no way around it. You've got to rewire how you see. Most people treat it like a threat, but risk is opportunity. Risk is leverage. Risk is how you leap ahead, while others stay stuck. You've got to get addicted to risk. Not reckless, but calculated, intentional, courageous. Because if you only move when it's safe, you'll move too late. If you only take steps when everything's guaranteed, you'll never move at all. That's why you've got to become the kind of person who runs toward fear, who chases discomfort, who puts himself in situations where he has to grow, has to evolve, has to figure it. You don't become powerful by avoiding fire. You become powerful by walking through it. That's how you forge strength. That's how you harden your mindset. That's how you build a life worth living. And look, you're gonna make mistakes. That's part of the game. You'll fail. You'll doubt yourself at times. That's normal. But if you keep moving, if you keep showing up, if you refuse to give up, you'll come out on the other side with something most people will never have: freedom. Not just financial freedom, mental freedom. The confidence that you did bet on yourself, that you did go after it, no matter how scared you were. And that kind of self-respect is worth more than any validation or approval this world can offer. You've got to stop living like you have forever. Time is your most valuable currency, and it's bleeding out by the second. Every day you wait, every opportunity you let pass, every fear you let win, you're losing time. You'll never get back. You're building a future filled with what-ifs instead of wins. That's the cost of fear. That's the price of inaction. And it's far more expensive than any risk you're afraid to take. So when fear shows up, when your mind starts whispering lies, telling you to wait, to hold back, to play it safe, you shut it down. You lean in. You take the leap. Not because it's easy, but because it's necessary. Because the pain of trying and failing is nothing compared to the pain of never trying at all. The pain of regret is real, but the reward of courage is even more powerful. So don't play small. Don't wait. Don't hesitate. Take the risk, or live with the pain of regret.